Welcome to the Confessions Podcast. I'm Cindy Wagman.
And I'm Jess Campbell. We're two former in-house nonprofit pros turned coaches and consultants to purpose-driven organizations.
After years of building up our separate six-figure businesses from scratch, we've thrown a lot of spaghetti at the wall and have lived to see what sticks.
We're on a mission to help other nonprofit coaches and consultants looking to start or scale their own businesses past the six-figure mark by pulling back the curtain.
Whether you're still working inside a nonprofit and thinking of one day going out on your own, or you've been running your consulting business for years, you understand that working with nonprofits is just different. We're giving you access to the business leaders who serve nonprofits as their clients. You know, the people who truly get it.
No more gatekeeping, no more secrets. This podcast is going to give you an inside look at what running a successful nonprofit coaching and consulting business looks like. Basically, we're asking people how much money they make, how they get paid, and what has and hasn't worked in their businesses.
Listen in as these leaders share their insights, their numbers, and the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to building a nonprofit coaching or consulting business. We're going to empower you to make the power moves that give you the income and freedom you set out to create from day one.
You ready? Let's go. Hi, Cindy.
Hello, Jess.
We're having a back-to-back day for the audience listeners, so it's always fun to say hi when we've actually already been talking. I'm pumped. We've got a real pro.
Yeah. I'm like, our guest today has been at this for a while. I'm super excited, and I feel like she's one of those like under the radar but killing it kind of people. Like,
as soon as
slay. We talked about her, we're like, oh yeah. So I feel like she's like a quiet success, but maybe she doesn't feel like she's being quiet, but.
Well, I think that's what we're going to get into, because my impression of, drumroll please, Stephanie Skryzowski. Skryzowski.
So
we
close.
should just spell this out for folks. From 100 Degree Consulting. I feel like she is loud in the finance space of the nonprofit. Like, she is the go-to CPA for nonprofits and finance and operations. But there's like, you and I play in a fundraising world. And so,
maybe that's it. Maybe like, yeah. But
no, I feel like she's the only one I know.
She is the only one I know too. But I don't know. I just feel like she does such a good job of like, just quietly killing it, just like being out there, but like, but just like consistently over, because like when Stephanie's the second interview today, someone I met very early on in consulting, I remember we had a call and we're like, hey, and like, she's been out there consistently, just like,
welcome to the show, Stephanie.
Hey, Stephanie.
What an intro. Thank you for having me.
Let's just like really quick, like, how long have you been at this in your business?
I officially started my business in October of 2015. So it is coming up on 8 years.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you are. Yes. You are one of the OGs that was playing in the space when Cindy was starting too.
Yeah. Like, we met super early on, because I started in 2015 as well in the summer. Yes. And I remember, I can't even remember how we met, but I remember it was online and we're like, let's chat. So for our listeners who don't know you yet, because maybe they're not in the finance space, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so I am a CFO, so that's Chief Financial Officer, and I spent a long time working in nonprofit organizations as a CFO, and then started my company, 100 Degrees, and we provide fractional CFO and bookkeeping services to nonprofits. So we're basically like an outsourced finance team for nonprofit organizations.
Love it. I'm a huge fan of fractional.
I was just going to say, like, kindred spirits right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Although
Yeah.
I think it's Stephanie like figured it out way sooner than I did. She's been doing the fractional piece, I'd say a lot longer, but it is such a great model. So how do your clients work with you?
So basically, they work with us on a monthly flat fee basis and it's ongoing, which is a really great business model to have where when you sign a client, they never leave you. So it's basically that. We come in, we kind of assess what the scope of work is going to be like. We assign a monthly rate and then we do the work. So we're closing the books on a monthly basis. We're helping with budgeting. We're helping run their audits and do their 990 and all of that good stuff on a monthly basis. And then they stay with us for usually a really long time. And we like to say, that our clients stay with us until they hopefully outgrow us and get to the point where they can bring somebody in, in-house full time.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So tell me a little bit about like who's in your company because if it was just you, you're going to run out of capacity. Like it's great money, it's great stability, but there's a capacity limit there in
Yes.
terms of retainer work. And so I know that you have grown your company and it's not just, your capacity. Tell us a little bit about the structure, who's with you, what are they doing, and all that good stuff.
Yes. So team is huge. And I feel like in the beginning, it didn't take that long to get the momentum going to get me to the point where it's like, okay, I need to make a decision right now. And that is to either tell these people that want to work with me no, because I don't have any more capacity, or to hire somebody. And I chose to hire someone. The first hire I made was another bookkeeper. So somebody to take that very low level work off of my plate. This is client work off of my plate and take that on. And I don't think when I made that decision, I wasn't consciously saying like, which of these two paths shall I follow? Shall I stay a consult? Like I just was like, oh, okay, well, the next step is I just need to hire some help. But anyway, that continued to grow. And who we have right now, we have a team of 16, including me. And so we have a director of finance and operations who I would say is kind of like my right hand person. She's like the most senior person on the team besides me. And then we have an operations assistant that works under her. Um, then we have a client relationship manager who is responsible for all of our like discovery calls and onboarding and really making that connection between our clients and our team and making sure clients are happy, that kind of thing. And then everybody else is directly client serving. So CFOs and bookkeepers that each have a portfolio of clients that they work with on a monthly basis. And they're working directly with the clients.
I have so many questions. Jess and I are competing to who's going to ask the first question.
Yes.
Are your staff on payroll? Like, are they employees of the company? Yeah.
Yes, everyone is a full-time employee. And I experimented with part-time employees, contractors, and what I found was that I really didn't like it when basically I was hiring people that also had their own businesses. And so they were doing work for my business and they also had their business. And at the end of the day, like they're always going to choose their own business over working for somebody else's. And so I did draw a line in the sand and was like, okay, we're not doing part-time. We're not doing contractors anymore. We're doing full-time employees. I think we have like one or two exceptions where it's a part-time employee, but still a W-2 employee and they don't have any other work. They just are not able to work 40 hours. But yes, everyone is an employee, no contractors.
Okay, so you have this team of 16, which is bananas. That's so impressive and congratulations. I'm curious, like, what does a CEO of a team of 16 do? Like, where do you see your responsibilities? How do you spend your time? Because you have a very different role now compared to when you were a solopreneur doing the client work, doing the biz dev. What does that look like now?
Yeah. So I used to say that like the hardest part of having a business is like dealing with the people, and not like in a bad way, like, oh, I got to deal with these people, not like that, more just like all of the people things, hiring the people and making sure the people are happy and whatnot. But right now, because I have my director of operations, she's really responsible for the people. And so they have one-on-ones with her. They're reporting to her. I only have one direct report, and that is her, my director of operations. So for a long time, it was like every CFO on the team, maybe there were two or three at that point, they would all report to me. The client relationship manager, everyone reported to me. And I was like, wait a second, this is not like, this is worse than what it was before when I only had a couple of contractors. And so now they're all reporting up through the director of operations, and she's the only person that I like have regular check-ins with. So she and I check in once weekly. She kind of gives me the update on the rest of the team. And then I'm really spending my time when it comes to the people, the team, in like building culture. Like what does it look like in our monthly team meetings? What do our team retreats look like? What does the team need overall? Like what benefits are we going to offer? So I'm kind of thinking from that like 30,000-foot view of the team. And then versus like the day to day, like honestly, I don't know what all of our bookkeepers are doing on a day to day basis because that is not my job. Um, that is someone else's job, but not mine. So a little bit on more like big picture culture stuff. I do still have a few clients. These are like longtime clients that we've had for a while that I worked with from the beginning and that haven't transitioned off of my plate for one reason or another. And I kind of also like still being in the work because I'm seeing what's happening and whatever. And then the bigger things that I'm thinking about are like, okay, what does the 5-year picture look like? What does scale look like in an organization like ours? Like, how do we get our name out there in new, different, bigger ways? And so I'm really, I try to think at that like 30,000-foot level for the most part.
Okay. See, like when I say quietly killing it, I mean like from the outside, you you would never know that you have like this for like I feel like everything you just said is like what everyone is craving in terms of like, A, you have a massive team, which is amazing. You aren't in the weeds of like managing the people. You are doing the CEO work. Like that is just like killing it. So, I I want to ask you about that CEO work and like, you know, the culture piece. Let's start with I want to talk about all of it, but let's start with the culture piece because I think that I've experienced a lot of people in our sector where they just like transition into consulting and they bring a lot of the bad habits of working in nonprofits with them, like not paying people super well and feeling like you don't have much control over culture. Like, there aren't that many levers that we can pull. So tell me a little bit about like what you're doing to keep those 16 amazing people happy and doing good work and, you know, invested in the strength of your business.
Yeah, that is a really good question and something like I'm constantly thinking about because I do think we have a really incredible team. And so I'm always like, oh my gosh, what can we do to make sure they stay and don't go anywhere else because they're awesome. I love them. For me, the biggest thing I think that I try to focus on is like working an appropriate amount of hours and not beyond that. And so for me, it is a red flag anytime anyone is working more than 35, 40 hours. And so we try really hard to balance clients, balance workloads, balance everyone's portfolio so that nobody, like I do not want a single person in our company ever working 50, 60-hour weeks. Like that's not okay. Because we all have lives outside of work and you're going to be a better employee, a better, CFO to our clients if you're not working 60 hours a week and you can go enjoy your life. And when you turn off your computer at 5 p.m., you're not thinking about anything until 9 o'clock the next morning. So that is huge for me. And anytime we do track our time, not for like client billing purposes, but just for internal, like let's make sure we're spending an appropriate amount of time on certain clients, that kind of thing. And anytime anybody is over 40 hours, I'm like, okay, flagged. We need to do something about this. So I think that piece is huge. Like this work-life balance situation is really, really important to me. Um, Last year we added health insurance benefits, which made me feel like a big girl employer, that was something that we could do because it's like not cheap. It's definitely an investment, but I feel like super proud that we're able to do that. And I think the team really appreciated that as well. And then I think just like really encouraging camaraderie and collaboration, which is kind of hard to do because none of us live near each other. We are all over, literally all over the world. And so like, I don't know, just doing silly like little things on Slack and people send pictures of personal things that they're doing and we're always wishing each other happy birthday and asking questions. I don't know, like so just trying to build that culture even in a remote environment. And then we do a team retreat every year. So that is also quite a large investment as we are getting so much bigger to bring everybody in person. But that's huge. That really like helps us all get to know each other as people beyond just beyond just employees, teammates, whatever. And actually, sorry, one more thing I will add about building culture is we ask for feedback from our team a lot. And I will be honest, sometimes it is not easy to read the feedback because you're like, why isn't it all positive? Like, you know, and but we ask for feedback a lot and we take action on it a lot, like as much as we can, right? And we've had additional feedback from our team that they appreciate that we ask for feedback and then we actually do something about it. Like, I don't know. I think it's like I just really genuinely care about everyone. And so we try to, take actions that show them that we care.
That's amazing. I love just the thoughtfulness you've put into being a business owner and the responsibility I can tell that you have for running a team of as many people as you have. And I'm sure your retention levels don't lie with people staying on and working with your clients year over year. I'm wondering if we could go back in time or if you could go back in time now, what did they say? Like, if I knew then what I know now. And for all the people listening that have aspirations of bringing on maybe a full-time staff member, like, what would you have done differently? Or what are you super glad you prepared? Is it a book you read? Is it having X number of dollars in a savings account? Like, is it a hiring process you followed or model? Like, you know, I think as business owners, or maybe just me personally, I like to go really fast. So like slowing down to speed up is like so painstakingly hard for me, but I know it's also necessary. So I'm just, curious on any advice you might have for folks who maybe in the next year, 2, 3 might want to bring on their first employee and just really want to get it right.
Yes. The one thing that comes to mind is like slightly embarrassing because I'm a finance person, but what I wish I had done was dig a little deeper and crunch the numbers a little bit better on profitability and what it would mean to bring on an employee at like a pretty high salary. Like, how many clients and at what like average monthly retainer would they need to be able to handle to have a certain percentage of profitability per employee basically. And I kind of did that, but I think then what happened was that we sort of strayed away from like we may have when I did those calculations, I may have like overestimated how much our clients were paying us. And so then like our actual profit margins for a couple years were not great because we had added so many team members, but our client like retainers were not really what I had estimated or what they should be. They were all too low. Like we've all done this, but like vastly undercharging for our services, like still guilty of that sometimes. So I think that's what I would say is like my biggest I would have crunched the numbers even more and maybe even added a like profit margin buffer in there just in case something, maybe I had to pay somebody more or maybe I gave them a raise or maybe, a client leaves or whatever. I would have added more of a margin buffer in there because what I'm finding is like, yeah, the profit margin is not necessarily to just go in my pocket and it's not for vanity purposes. It's like, I want to do a 401k matching plan, but I can't do that if we don't have the right profit margins. And so we've been working over the last year to increase that and to get our client fees up to where they need to be. But I would say that's my biggest thing. Like when I first brought on a full-time team member, I wish I would have thought a little bit more about the profit margin.
And do you mind sharing, like, what is there like a standard or recommended? I mean, I don't know, Cindy, you've had employees too, so maybe you have something. And it's something I struggle with too, is I'm in a phase where I have more work coming in than I can handle. And I'm like dabbling with the idea of bringing on a subcontractor, but then that's like, thinking about all those things. And it's like, what is a healthy profit margin? And then I have questions after that.
I think that somebody once told me a number that was like so outrageous that I'm like, are you kidding me? We would need to charge our clients so much. Like that's not gonna work for us. And I think it was like, I think she told me like 2.5 times their revenue should be 2.5 times their monthly salary kind of thing. Like, and so yeah, that's not where we're at. We'll just say that. But what I do think is a factor that people don't think about is like, okay, if it's a full-time employee, there's their salary, yes, but there's also like I always factor another 20% on top of that for payroll taxes. And if you do any benefits or if there's additional cost to hiring that person, I always factor another 20% on top to get what is a little bit more of a true cost. So yeah, I've heard 2.5x their salary, but yeah, we're definitely not there.
Okay, Stephanie, every episode we play a game of rapid fire questions. Are you ready to play?
I'm ready.
Okay, first question. If you had an extra $100 to spend, what would you buy?
Oh my gosh, I'd probably do something silly like go to Sephora and buy like fancy face lotion.
Totally. But you talked a lot in your episode about investments made in yourself, in your business. What are 1, 2, 3 investments you thought were really worth their salt?
I would say the biggest investment that I've made in my business that was so worth it was a business coach / mastermind. Just being in community with people who are a few steps ahead of you has been a complete game changer for me. Worth every penny.
Do you mind sharing any specific names? People are going to want to know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course. Sure. Yeah. So Rachel Rogers, I am in her mastermind. You probably know her from her best-selling book, We Should All Be Millionaires. And I also worked with a business coach whose name is Catherine Binkley. She's really focused on operations, and she is the one that helped me go from having basically like 40 hours of meetings a week to streamlining that into like 2 days a week and really helping me manage my time and free up a lot of space. So Catherine Binkley was a game changer in our business a few years ago.
She sounds like a dream. And then
Yeah.
last question. I know you have 2 little girls at home. What do you tell like how do you balance both being like a wife, a mom, and a business owner? Like any tips, any tricks? Is it waking up early? Is it working on Sundays? Is it screw all of that? My kids come first. Like what's your answer?
Oh, that's such a good question. I feel like we need 15 minutes for this, not rapid fire, but no, I would say I plan my weeks on Sundays, so I kind of know where everyone is going to be, and then I shape my work hours accordingly. And then on a sort of bigger picture basis, I have my days when I know I know when I have childcare. I do not have full-time childcare, but I know when I do have it. And so I plan my meetings accordingly. And then I make sure that I've got enough like chunks of time. So for me, it's just like strategic calendar management helps me feel like I can do what I need to do in my business and I can be really present for the moments and the things that I want to be present for with the girls. So I would say like it's all about the calendar.
It's all about the calendar. Isn't that the truth? Okay, thanks for playing.
Thanks.
It's hard too, because as you said, Stephanie, like clients come and go, even with the retainer model, right? Like
They do. Yeah.
sometimes, and employees can come and go too, which is really hard. That was actually
Hmm.
the hardest part for me. But yeah, and then there's all the other expenses that are not related to staffing that eat into the profitability. So I also didn't have like a perfect equation, if you will, when I had staff. So yeah, but you, I think like with those nuances, when you can sort of start to zoom out, and it's not going to be perfect math, but it will get you close enough. So I can't wait to see where you go with that.
I have a question for both of you, just as cost of living increases and you hopefully want to be giving people raises and things. How do you all balance that with increasing your clients' rates? Like, is that an annual raise? Do you like do it every couple of years and like it kind of like staggers? These are all things they have to think about when it's beyond just you. And I don't know if it's realistic to tell your clients every single year that like your rates are increasing just because cost of living increases. So how do y'all work that out?
Oh my gosh, it is so hard. And I will say, like, our first priority has always been our team. And we're like, we'll deal with the clients and the profit margin later, but like everyone's getting a raise. And we do bonuses as well, which is a percentage of their salary. So that kind of varies depending on how the year went. But yeah, we do give raises. And I'm pretty sure we've given them every year. And we had so many clients. We basically gone through a whole process this year by which we are reviewing all of our clients' pricing and like getting everyone kind of right sized where they should be based on our new pricing model. But we've had clients that we haven't touched their rate in 4 years. And so in some in some like cases, it's like, okay, well, they're kind of shocked. Like, why you haven't raised our prices in 4 years and now you're doing it? Like, who do you think you are, kind of thing? But it's like, dude, you've been having the same price for 4 years. We're in a very different world that we were 4 years ago. And so it's been really quite an interesting thing to navigate. Some clients are like, okay, yeah, totally makes sense. All good. Or pay the new rate, moving on. Other clients are like, no, we can't do that. It's not going to work for us. We need to leave. And it's been very hard for us to be like, well, I think we're okay with that. Like, yeah, exactly.
And where
um,
are they going to find someone to do what you do with the price you do? That's the beauty of fractional, is like they're not going
mhm.
to be able to replace you for less than probably double what your new prices are. So it's kind of like shooting themselves in the foot. That's crazy. Yeah.
I know. There are some like for like bookkeeping, just bookkeeping, not the
Sure.
CFO piece, but like
Yeah.
there's some inexpensive solutions, but they're really bad. And so
Yeah.
it's
You
like,
get what you
I
pay
feel
for.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, you're going to come back to us in like 12 months and be like, can we circle back to that rate
Yeah.
increase again? So yeah, it's tricky to balance all of that out for sure. Yeah, the revenue side with the client pricing as well as making sure our team is taken care of.
And before you answer ask your question, Jess, I also want to say like there's the opportunity cost because you are so successful, and we can talk about business development, but I feel like for every client that leaves, I can't imagine it's too difficult for you to replace them. So you know that you have another client coming in at the prices you need to be charging versus someone who's on 4 year ago pricing. It's
Yeah,
like, if as a business owner, just by obviously like you want to serve the organization and their long-term clients and all that, but you're going to start losing out personally if you don't get them up to the sort of current prices. So yeah, see ya.
exactly. Exactly. I know. And it's so hard though, because so much of like our heart is in this. And it's like, oh, I've been working with you for so long and I really love you. And I know you're bored. And like, it's so good. But at the end of the day, like what we've had to kind of tell her, and even some of our team, I think is like, you're raising prices on this client because I love them. I don't want to lose them because our team has built relationships with them too. But at the end of the day, well, it's like, okay, well, if you want benefits, like if you want your health insurance, we kind of need to make this move because it's a business, it really is.
Okay, so I want to switch directions a little bit because so far we've talked of all the things that have sounded like pretty smooth in your business and that you've got really right. And, it wouldn't be any business if there wasn't some kind of like twists and knots. And so, for those of you who don't know, at one point, Stephanie was working and serving two audiences, actually. She was serving both nonprofit consultants as a fractional CFO as well as nonprofits. And then I don't know if it's been like the last 12 or 18 months, Stephanie, that you've shed that side of the business, but maybe you could just tell us a little bit about that journey and where you are now and how you came to make those decisions and why and just all the juicy details.
Yes. So not only were we serving nonprofit consultants, we were serving any and every type of small business you can imagine. We had swimwear, like retail e-commerce companies. We had online education businesses like course creators that were not in the nonprofit space at all. We had influencers, we had marketing agencies. If you gave me like 5 minutes, I could probably think of 10 more industries that we were serving. And we sort of lumped them all into like small businesses. That is a very vast, like, oh, I think we had a med spa, like like a place that does Botox, like so many different businesses. And in the beginning, I was like, oh, yeah, we could totally serve small businesses and nonprofits because at the end of the day, their problems are all the same, like cash flow, budgeting, bookkeeping, like all of that stuff. But in the beginning, perhaps that was true. But then we just kept saying yes. And I think it was a little bit in the beginning, it was like, okay, well, a little bit of that scarcity mindset, like, okay, well, if this client, goes away, maybe there's not going to be another. So we said yes to everyone. Lots of different small businesses. And we just kept getting referrals from all these random industries that we kept saying yes to. Um, and so it was probably like midway through, or maybe the begin, yeah, probably midway through 2022, where it just seemed like we were having issues with all of our small, not all, but a lot of our small business clients, where the clients weren't happy. They were like, why aren't you helping me think of new revenue streams? Why is my revenue so low? Why is my profit so low? And we're like, well, that's not really our job. But that meant they weren't happy with our services because we weren't able to do that. And so we kept trying to figure out like what is going on here? Do we not have the right people on our team? Like, should we let some of these clients go? Like what is happening? Because we were not seeing any of these issues on the nonprofit side of our business. And we were charging, or for whatever reason, like our small business portfolio was way less profitable than nonprofit. And which is really interesting, right? You guys are both like have confused looks on your faces. Nonprofits were paying us way more than small businesses were. I think because nonprofits know that they need our services. And so they more intentionally budget for it versus a small business. A CFO kind of feels like an extra or like this like cool thing to have at some point. So I don't know, like prices were not aligned. And it was in Q4 of last year that we really started digging into the numbers and realized, like, I don't even want to say this out loud. It's so embarrassing. Realized, like, on our small business portfolio, our profit was like a couple $1,000s a month, like a few thousand, literally like less than $5,000 a month. And that didn't include my time, my director of operations time. So when you add all those in, we were making basically no money. And so we had all these headaches. We were making no money. And it was like diverting my attention between nonprofit and small business. And so I was like, okay, well, we have two choices. We shut down the small business side, or we like really put some effort in to fix this. Maybe it's, go all in on one type of small business or whatever. And so I was on a call with my business coach and I was like, here's where I'm at. What do you think I should do? Do we shut it down or do we go all in and like try to fix it? And she's like, you don't shut it down, you sell it. I was like, wait, what? She was like, no, you sell that. That is a huge asset. You have spent years building this portfolio, building your systems, building your processes. You need to make money from that. And I'm like, oh, I didn't really even think about that as an option. And so I was like, that sounds good. Like that feels like a win-win-win, right? Like we win because it gets offloaded and we're still compensated for the years of effort that it took to build up this practice. The clients win because we don't have to just tell them, oh, we're stopping, go find somebody else, good luck. And then whoever purchases it wins because here's a business that now you don't have to build from scratch. So I got really excited about the idea and I started reaching out to a few people that I know that do similar work for small businesses and just having conversations like, might you be interested in this? And it turns out we ended up selling the portfolio to the CFO that was working for us. So she was already working with those clients. We sold her the portfolio. And so, really, for all of her clients, there was virtually no transition. It was like, you're not going to pay 100 degrees anymore. You're going to pay her new company. And like, we got them off our plate. And it's been so good ever since. But it wasn't like, I don't know, maybe I'm making the story seem rosier than it was. Like it was really hard at those times when we felt like we were just doing a terrible job because our clients weren't happy. Um, and, even the transition was like looking back, there are definitely things that we could have done better. And so it was bumpy. And there were people that were quite unhappy with us because we didn't handle things the way they would have wanted. So it was hard, but while we were in it, but I'm so glad we did that. It was probably the best decision I've ever made for our business.
Okay. As a finance person, how did you go about researching or determining the value of that portfolio? Like, I'm in the process of selling one of my podcasts, my other
Mm.
podcast, and
Mhm.
I think I just like picked a number out of the air. It's like I feel like this is an appropriate number, but I would, it kind of was a guess, and so I'm super curious. Where did you come up with the value of that part of your business?
That is a very good question. And I think in our case, like we had pretty black and white numbers. Like we knew exactly how much revenue this portfolio is worth on a monthly basis. And therefore annual basis and multi-year basis. And we also knew what it cost, the direct cost to service those clients. So like the people, the CFO and a couple bookkeepers, we knew exactly what it cost and we knew the profit. Um, and so we basically crunched those numbers and looked into the future like, okay, assuming this is the profitability for the next 5 years, here's the value. And honestly, it wasn't what we ended up agreeing upon was not the first, there were several rounds of going through this legal process and negotiating and things like that. Which I thought was interesting because I was like, oh, it's going to be like so straightforward, right? I'll just give you this cute little contract and you sign it and we're like good to go. And no, it was not that. There was a lot of back and forth and just making sure that everybody felt really comfortable with what they were getting into. So, I mean, what was not maybe not more important than the money to me, but what was really important to me was just like a smooth transition because I kept telling myself, well, I was just going to shut this thing down like 2 months ago. So like, honestly, like anything I can get feels like a bonus. Yes, I want to be compensated for building this portfolio and building this business. But at the end of the day, like making sure this transition is really smooth for everybody is almost equally as important to me. So I don't feel like I got what I had initially wanted. Um, but I do feel like what we landed on was fair.
Incredible. And like, I just want to commend you and tell you how brave that is because that's just really hard to admit, say out loud, execute, like the whole thing. And there's a lot of people I think out there probably doing things that aren't serving themselves or their businesses and they just like keep doing it anyways out of well for a lot of reasons and for you to like step into your CEO seat and really look at and analyze and say what is the best thing for not just me and my business but my time, I think is just like super duper brave. And I guess I would just follow that with like what are some of the benefits, we're 10 months from when you were having these conversations. So like, yeah, you just said it was the best decision of your business. What are some of the things that have come out of that decision that have benefited your business?
Yeah, I mean, I was saying around this time last year that it feels like I'm running two different businesses. We had two email lists. So every time I was writing an email to our list, like like a marketing or just general communications, I was writing two different emails. So two different email lists. We had two different teams. So a team of CFOs and bookkeepers that worked with small businesses and a team that worked with nonprofits because they're different skill sets and they're different experience that you need. And so we had two different teams. I was constantly flipping back and forth in my head between like, who should I go all in on? And even like, what is my identity? Am I a small business like CFO? Is that the world I want to live in? Or am I a nonprofit CFO? Is that the world that I want to live in? What conferences should I be going to? Like I was running two different businesses. And so now I would say the clarity that I have in like, okay, well, what is next? What is our mission? Who are the people that we need on our team is like it's incredible. Um I would say our team probably I think our team feels a lot more aligned. They had questions in the beginning like when we initially told them they were like, are you sure? Is this a smart decision? You know you're throwing away a lot of revenue, right?" And I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't matter because we're throwing away basically no profit. But it took a little bit to get them to kind of get on board. But I think they feel really clear now because we're all talking about the same thing. When we're talking about the 990, the whole team knows what we're talking about. And I was gonna say there was one other thing that I was going to say too, but I don't remember. I forgot. Anyway, if I think of it, I'll jump in.
It happens to the best of us. Okay, the last thing I want to talk to you about before we go into our confessions question is just this idea around business development and marketing and like your responsibility of owning that as a CEO. So we've talked a lot about team and your responsibility around hiring and culture. We've talked about how, like focus and making these kind of business decisions. But whose responsibility is it to bring in new clients, to market the business? And is that you? And like, how are you deciding where to spend your energy, what rooms to be in, where to show up? And is that how you attract clients, or is it more maybe like a referral based business? Like, how does that side of it work?
Yes. So I definitely see new business development and attracting new clients as a big responsibility of mine for sure. One thing that is really cool is that this year we have added to our client relationship manager like a sales piece, just meaning that like they need to go out and look for new business as well, which is so cool because our client relationship manager lives in Montana, so she just went to the Montana Nonprofit Association conference. She spoke there. She had a table there with 100-degree stuff. And I'm like, all this stuff is happening across the country and I'm not part of any of it. This is like incredible. And so she started to do more proactive outreach on behalf of 100 Degrees as well, which we have never had before. It's always been me. But we get 80% of our clients from referrals. So we do have a pretty steady inflow of clients without us having to do anything. That being said, we are trying to be more proactive about getting in the rooms with other nonprofit leaders. And so, in addition to our CRM going to the Montana conference, we have one of our CFOs is going to a conference in Erie, Pennsylvania, and I'm not going. And so this is a model that we're just kind of trying out is like getting booths at conferences and I don't necessarily have to be there and trying to connect with people more directly that way. We've always been like relationship people. I've always been a relationship person versus a like Facebook ads, one to the masses person. I've tried it because I've seen all these other online business owners like kill it, but I've wasted a lot of money. I've wasted a lot of money chasing that shiny object. So that's kind of what our strategy has been like. Let's get in the room with people. I'm speaking at a couple of conferences this fall, and I am doing something that is terrifying to me, but exciting is at these conferences, I'm hosting like an intimate dinner of like 15 to 20 people and just inviting inviting people, having them invite people. So we have a room of like 15 different nonprofit leaders that maybe we don't all know each other. And I'm like very nervous about this. Like, what if nobody shows up to my party kind of thing? But I think it's really cool. And it really just aligns with, I don't know, like who I am. I just do better in small groups versus a conference of 1,000 people. So that's the work that I'm doing. And I would say the other piece is working on our, like the education side of our business. So we do have an online course. I do workshops, I do trainings, and working on scaling that because as you can imagine, the profit margin on that is huge because it's really just my time. There's no expenses related to people. So I've been working on like, okay, what does that look like on a big picture? I don't know that I've necessarily figured it out yet, but that's like my big thing for this year is like growing, scaling the education side of our business.
Love that. Also, I just read/listened to Mike Kim's book, You Are the Brand. And
Oh yeah.
have you read it?
Yeah, I was in his mastermind a couple years ago.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. So, because in the book, he actually talks about these like small, intimate gatherings where he did a lot of business development, especially I think in the early days. So there you go. Okay. Before we run out of time, we have to ask for a confession. So share with us something juicy that you haven't shared elsewhere about your business or you as it relates to your business.
Oh gosh. Well, I would say like I have definitely kind of like I just mentioned, but going into a little more detail, I've definitely chased the shiny object syndrome and um invested a lot of money with consultants who because I was trying to be something I wasn't, right? I'm trying to be like the Amy Porterfield for nonprofits. And like, yes, let me spend $20,000 on this Facebook ads agency to create this funnel that is going to make me millions. And it made me literally zero, like zero. So spent tens of thousands of
Mm-hmm.
dollars with an ads agency and got nothing. I'm like, did you guys do this right? Because shouldn't we have had at least one sale? It just bombed and it was really disheartening. And I was like, how are these other people making literally millions of dollars doing this exact same thing, but I made zero? So yeah, I would say that's a pretty big confession. And I feel like a lot of people think that like, oh, you're a CFO, so you must be perfect with money. You must make every like good decision and have like this amazing profit margin and like you never waste a penny. Like sadly, I wish that was true, but it's not. I make bad money decisions too.
I
Well,
mean,
thank goodness you're human.
yeah. Welcome to the club. I mean, that is one of the things that we talk a lot about because we're all sold this like perfect vision of like passive income and, all these
Yes.
things that work for other audiences that just don't translate to nonprofits. Like it just doesn't. So,
No.
yeah, we've been there. Jess and I feel your pain. I guarantee our listeners
Done that.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't think I've ever made any money like truly passively, like not a dollar. I think
No.
I've worked for everything that I've made.
Yeah. Totally. Okay. Stephanie, where can our listeners connect with you and learn more about what you do?
Yeah. So our website is 100degreesconsulting.com. And then I would say I spend most of my time on Instagram at stephanie.skry. I don't have the whole last name spelled out. You're welcome. Or at 100 Degrees Consulting anywhere, and you'll be able to go find my Instagram.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Thank you again for listening to the Confessions podcast for nonprofit coaches and consultants. If you enjoyed today's episode, which I sure hope you did, you can show your support in one of three ways.
Number 1, post a screenshot of this episode to your Instagram stories or LinkedIn profile and tag Cindy and I so we can repost you.
Number 2, share this podcast with a fellow nonprofit coach or consultant.
And number 3, leave a positive review on Apple Podcasts so we can continue to grow and reach new listeners.
And of course, make sure you subscribe so you can get the latest and greatest interviews as they drop every Thursday.
And to our fellow nonprofit coaching and consulting friends, remember, we're an open book and here to answer your burning biz questions.
See you next time.